Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice.
We thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Decide a different league. I'm coming. I'm flat out coming.
It's my quarterback. And if you guys do that, man, it's unfair.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Sports Report Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. William D. Morgan. You know what, y'all? Before I get started with the show, I got laughed at this morning. Yeah, I got laughed at. Because I said that R-Truth should be the man to dethrone John Cena. I got laughed at this morning. Your man is vindicated. The 24th Saturday main event for the World Heavyweight Championship. WB title, whatever you want to call it. I really don't care. John Cena versus R-Truth. The feud has started. And R-Truth could be the man to finish Cena up. He could be the greatest ending of a storyline ever. Remember, R-Truth has been saying John Cena is his childhood hero, despite the fact he's older than John Cena. But nevertheless, I love R-Truth. Great hand. Better hand than Coco Beware ever will be. No offense to Coco. But I am vindicated and I'm very, very happy. Now, let me go ahead and bring in everybody on the show with us tonight, including an old friend who I've not seen in umpteen centuries, it seems. First, let me bring on the best co-host in the whole wide world, the man, the myth, the legend. He is Seven. Seven, what's up, bro?
Oh, me? Oh, me? Really?
Yeah.
Don't oversell it, bro. I'm not the type of girl to promise 8 inches when I got 2. Like, let's just keep it straight. Let's keep it honest. Ain't no value in overselling it. But, you know, I'm not going to claim I'm Red Robin Burgers when all I got is some McDonald's cheeseburger. Like, let's just keep it real.
How you doing today, man?
Man, you know, I had a realization today, and I want to get your thoughts because I feel like Tom Thibodeau looks like an angry middle school basketball coach that has just given up.
I agree.
Like, just, I mean, there's no way he's trying. There's no way he's trying.
He just looks like that. That's just how he looks on a daily basis.
He looks like the initial sketch when somebody's trying to get a girl to describe the last thing she remembers at the bar.
That's so true. That's so true. Oh my goodness. Oh man. And we got a Knicks fan. We got a Knicks fan here too. We'll get to him in a minute. We'll deal with this Knicks fan in a minute. God, we ain't seen Ambrose on this show for a minute either. Get with this Knicks fan in a minute, you bum. Let me go ahead and bring my man Ando in. You'll catch him on this show as well as the Geek Gauntlet podcast. Ando, what's up, man?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you guys catch me in the middle of a homicide? I'm just, drowning my cookie in milk before I start on.
Anyway, we're gonna move right along here.
Shut fucked up, sir. No, what's up, boys? How we doing tonight?
Oh god.
I'm sorry, man. We've been talking sports. You ever talking about killing cookies? What the hell?
Hey, look, we were talking Tom Thibodeau and sketch artists. Okay, it fits. He was the perfect. That's my alibi. It was Tom Thibodeau, man.
Next up, let me bring in this damn Knicks fan. Can't stand the Knicks. You know what the Knicks win or winning, my night just don't go right. Let's bring my man Ambrose in. Ambrose, what's up? How you doing, brother?
Coco beware! Coco beware!
Listen. I ain't trying to say Coco wasn't a good hand. I ain't trying to say that because Coco was a good hand. But our truth is just better.
Look, man, I don't think the title has ever passed over on Saturday night's main event. That's like the Caldor of WWF shows.
But this is the start to the feud, though.
It could be a start to a feud, but I don't think you lose a title. I don't even think like the cruiserweight title has ever passed on Saturday night's main event.
The tag titles have.
Let me finish what's in my mouth, and then I'll
get that elf out your mouth.
Oh my goodness! Ladies and gentlemen, making his triumphant return to the Sports Report, they bring my man, Mr. Emerson, Gene Emerson, with us. Gene, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's a good night. We're talking some hockey. We're going to talk wrestling, as you can hear there. That's going on. So yeah, I'm feeling great to be back.
Welcome back, my friend. Welcome back. It's good to see you. Good to see you. Real quick, before we get started with hockey, I do want to say one thing. You would know this, Ambrose. And 07, y'all all know him. I do want to say rest in peace to Sabu. He's 60 years old. Hardcore legend. Made ECW what it was, in my opinion. He's gonna thoroughly be missed. I was at work when the news came down. I was like, damn, man.
I mean, in my opinion, him and New Jack are the only two things that made ECW worth watching. And
I'll argue the Dudley Boys too.
Yeah. I guess. The Dudley Boys really didn't get it going until WWF, but they were there. They were good.
And of course, and if you're gonna put somebody in that tier, don't forget Sandman.
Yeah.
But he always lost.
Speaking of Saturday,
but Sabu was, in my opinion, I'm sorry to cut you off, Hannah. Sabu, in my opinion, was the perfect heel because you watched just to hate him. No one liked Sabu, but he was such a good heel, you wouldn't turn the TV off when he came on. He really didn't pan out in WWF or WCW because he would have been great.
Gene, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he just finish a match not that long ago?
About a week ago, Sabu finished a match.
Yeah.
In Vegas for GCW versus Joey Janela.
Mm-hmm. That was his last match.
In a barbed wire match that is almost reminiscent to his very first match he had in ECW.
Well, I mean, there were a lot of really good wrestlers in ECW.
Hey, Erica, what's up?
There were a lot of really good wrestlers in ECW that just, for one reason or another, couldn't make the cut. The tag teams, Axel Rotten, Balls Mahoney, they never panned out. I think the Public Enemy had locker room problems when they tried to go to WWF, and they couldn't make it out of the locker room because they just couldn't gel with the other talent. New Jack was unable to travel because he literally was a criminal.
Yeah.
So he could only wrestle in one state.
Yep.
So I mean,
that ended up being Marty Jannetty's fate too.
Yeah.
The only dude I really had a question, the only dude I really had an issue with from the ECW originals was Tommy Dreamer. And I think the only reason why I disliked Tommy Dreamer, and fellas, have you ever seen somebody so infused in putting other people over, you forget yourself? And
But
that was my only thing with Dreamer.
Here's the thing about Tommy Dreamer that was Heyman made Tommy Dreamer be that he was the white meat baby face. And that was the entire gimmick, was that he was always going to lose regardless. That's just how he was going to be booked. And it wasn't until, like, I had to say, almost close to the end of ECW does he finally get the win, gets the ECW heavyweight title. He loses that later on, and then again gets another title as a tag team with his rival Raven. So it was just how he was booked, and that was the booking that was given to him. But he was what they called the heart of ECW, because he was an OG original. Him and Sandman are the, like, from the time when it was called Eastern Championship Wrestling. They were there, lifers.
Tommy Dreamer was kind of like to the locker room what the Undertaker was to the WWF.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the Undertaker is an infinitely better wrestler, but Tommy Dreamer held the locker room together, and that was what really mattered. Like, if there was a problem with Paul Heyman, you didn't go to Paul Heyman, you went to Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah,
I think you're on to something with the scheduling problem, because the problem I always had with ECW is I always thought Shane Douglas was trash, and they always put the whole organization on the shoulders of Shane Douglas. It's like, dude, your valet is more popular than you are. More people tune into your matches because of Francine. Right. No one likes you.
They thing
just
about
tried to push Shane Douglas, and it didn't happen.
The thing about Shane Douglas, and if you go, and as we're talking here, going back to the start of when they were moving from Eastern to Extreme, Shane was really a part of that key, because he had just left WCW. They were now moving. Shane wanted to be able to talk, and again, Eddie. What's his name? Eddie Gilbert, I do believe, or the one that they just did a Dark Side of the Ring with, was a big fan of Shane Douglas and believed that Shane actually had potential. And if it wasn't for the push that he got, he would have never been able to negotiate a contract with the WWE when later we would get Dean Douglas. So, like, without that, really, we also don't get the most infamous promo that comes from Shane Douglas, is when he wins the AEW, or when he wins the NWA title, and then is basically tells them, they're all this lineage, talks about all his heroes who have helped the belt, and then he goes, they can all kiss my ass, and he throws it down, and then takes the Eastern Championship title as the Extreme Championship Wrestling belt, that this is the new World Heavyweight title, and I'm now going to put this company on my back. And then that's when he later goes from being, Fabulous, and he drops that to being the franchise. So,
but I think it was really over when Mike Awesome started to become, it's like, y'all got Florida Man. Y'all are headlining Florida Man now. That is Florida.
I remember Mike. I remember Mike. I do remember Mike. Yep. He ran. He had a decent WCW run.
What's up, Kyle?
Wasn't the best. What's up, Kyle? Wasn't the best.
And I mean, I think the two ECW did produce two of the best heels, though. Sabu, who was the original topic of conversation, is one of them, and Just Incredible.
I think Just
Incredible team.
I think really, if you get down to it, ECW made, again, Sabu, made Rod Van Dam, Sandman. But I think it also gave guys like Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Dean Malenko, guys that were overlooked.
Lance Storm.
Exactly. Guys that were very much overlooked because they're small. Chris Jericho, another one. Yep. They all go into ECW and they do phenomenal wrestling. Hell, if it wasn't for ECW, we would have never got the moniker on Chris Benoit, the Crippler.
Yep.
Again, and that's with Sabu. They, you know, basically Chris throws Sabu up the wrong way, and Sabu lands on his head, breaks his neck, still continues the match, fights later again, 13 days later, Sabu does with the broken neck, and it's because of that moniker that was given to him, and he goes with that for the rest of his career, does Chris Benoit. If it wasn't for ECW, you don't get the Chris Benoit that we know in the ring later on throughout, because, again, overlooked.
Yes.
Well, they were like ECW was kind of like a AAA team. Like, all right, Chris Candido OD'd on coke again. Send him and Sonny back down to ECW.
Let me ask you this, Gene. Can you imagine? Let me ask you this, Gene. Can you imagine if ECW would have gotten a solid broadcast deal? What more it could have been?
I think if it had worked out that the money that they didn't, I want to say, flesh out money, and that they actually had money, they had the bank roll to actually pay the wrestlers, or if the wrestlers, you know, just decided, hey, we're still going to be here regardless of our checks bounce or whatnot, because I think a couple years this is going to pick up whatever. If it had have went the way it should have, we would be talking a complete. I don't think there would have been that TNA.
Yeah,
because I think what really would have happened is when WCW had to close their doors, or when WCW guys that weren't getting that look on them, such as the Jeff Jarrett's, the people that are leaving, you know, WWE on the other side as well. There's your place that you go.
Yep.
You stop in there, and you can really make a definitive go on how you want to book your career from there.
Well, there's two things to build off of that, because ECW could have had, when they went to TNN, because they did have a broadcast deal. One thing, they didn't fold because of the broadcast deal. They folded because the pay-per-view, Paul Heyman is still owed millions of dollars off of pay-per-view money he never got. So, I mean, they didn't really fold because of the TV deal. But what happened with the TNN thing is they got signed to TNN at the most unfortunate time, because the WW, I guess back then it was F, the WWF contract with USA ran out.
Yep.
And Vince was always going to go back to USA. But he wanted to knock a piece off the chessboard. So he took a pay cut and went to TNN for like 6 to 12 months. Just to knock ECW out the box.
Also with that, it wasn't actually Vince's call. What happened was USA fumbled, and USA had to deveer some of their product because they were part of Viacom. So Viacom pushed them to put WWE, or at the time /WWF, on TNN.
Yeah.
And then basically what WWF said to ECW was, look, we're not here to try to shut you down. We're giving you a grace period as long as it takes for you to find a new place to go, to have your shows, to be running on TV, as long as it takes. We're not here to take your time slot. We're not here to take whatever money that would come towards you. That's not what we're here to do. Because there was that grace, that working relationship between ECW and WWE anyways. So.
All right, you guys, let's go ahead and move forward. Again, rest in peace, Sabu. Let's go ahead and get into something that we haven't talked about in a very long while. We have not talked about it. Gene is here to cover it for us like the old days. Let me go ahead and go to Eugene. Talk about the NHL, my friend.
We're here in the lovely Stanley Cup playoffs, already in the second round. Some great teams have been knocked out. Some great teams have moved ahead. Again, I was very surprised in the Battle of Florida that we had the Panthers literally move on over Tampa Bay. With the Battle of Ontario, it came down to the Sens just didn't. They lost their gas at that, game 6. Leafs picked it up, had it. Looking at also in that Eastern Conference, you look at the Capitals going over Montreal, which I was hoping to at least get down to the Final Four, being Toronto, Montreal, and then Edmonton and Winnipeg, but that was in the head.
That's literally the only way the Canadians get the Stanley Cup back is if all 4 teams
You really just want that cup back.
All 4 teams jump in it. That's the only way to get it back.
Yeah, might as well maximize on potential. But it did happen. We're gonna between Hurricanes and the Capitals in that one. I will say, truly, I would like to see maybe the Hurricanes go over the Capitals, only due to the fact that Hurricanes, I think, only have won one Stanley Cup in their entire.
I think 2004, 2005 was when they won it.
Okay.
Yep. They've been
Yeah.
to 2 because I know they got swept by the Red Wings in one, and then they won another.
Yeah. So it's like, let's just hope, for them. But it only just due to the fact that we all know Ovechkin, this is his final run anyways. So, and to see him in the playoffs is just great anyways, and see how far they go. But I would like to see the Hurricanes there, so that way with this whole match between Toronto and Florida, I am definitely rooting for Toronto.
Yeah.
Definitely rooting for Toronto on that one. That's a bias, but and then over on the West Coast, it looks like Dallas Stars are really giving a go to the Jets. That's been a back and forth with them, and then also as well as we're getting down to, I think it's Edmonton and
Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Edmonton currently has a 2-0 lead in the first period, with Edmonton up in the series 2-1.
So if they can get that third game, that really puts the pressure on Vegas, especially that young team that, as a team, they've recently here, like a couple of years ago, won a Stanley Cup. That I was amazed that they ever won.
Second year that they were in the league, they won it.
Yeah.
2022, 2021, or 2022.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
I was
sorry
going to ask you, with the series with the Panthers and the Leafs, if I recall, the Leafs had the lead, and then the Panthers come back and win the last 2 games.
Yes.
Are the Leafs just dropping the puck on this one, or are they actually going to come back?
The last few, for the last few games, it all goes right back as momentum. In the very first game that you get Florida and the Leafs, you knew this was going to be hard hitting because they have a rivalry. It's just how it has been their entire time they've met. We go through beating the Senators and taking out one Tkachuk brother. Now we're getting the second one. It's just seems that that's the fate here. But it all goes back to game 1. The hit was on Solskjaer on the goalie. Everything changes from that point on. Yes, the Leafs have that backup goalie in Wool. He's been to a few playoffs at this point, but it was, if this was any other team in the league and you take out your number 1 goalie, there is going to be a penalty. There's going to be something to suspension. There's going to be some talk. But due to the fact that it's the Leafs, and there's so many people from myself to hundreds of others who always believe that there's some conspiracy against the Leafs every year, that
It's
we're
the
just
curse
told
of
to,
Henry Ballard. That's what it is. It's the curse of Ballard.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
let's face
suck it up.
If the Stanley Cup had an OnlyFans account, the Leafs would be the top donator.
You know what? I will say this. I will say this about the Leafs. In the games that they have played against Florida in this 2-2 series, except for game 4, which was last night, they've kept it close. They should have won game 3, honestly. Considering I think they had a 3-2, and then they had a 4-3 lead. And then you give up that goal in the third, and then you give up. I mean, essentially, watching the goal happen, the goalie should have kept his eye on the puck, and he just lost it because of the traffic that was in front of the net.
There's a scramble in front of the net. As soon as the linesmen have called the play dead, that's when the puck goes over the line, essentially, is when they had waved it dead because there was so much going on.
Well, I'm talking about the goal in overtime where I think it was Machamp who got it, hit it from the quarter. And it seemed like it hit his own player in the leg, and the goalie for the Maple Leafs just lost it. But you said it best. Hockey is a game that's all about momentum. When you're up 4-3 and you can make it an even game, and then you take that goal in overtime, you're playing at home for game 4. So you have all of that momentum, and then you take a 2-0 game in game 4. I don't want to agree with John that the Maple Leafs choke it, but I mean, they got to get their heads right for game 5.
He didn't want to agree with me so bad he cut out.
No. And in this last game 4, it was like, I looked at the score. It's like 2-0.
You're not the final.
Yeah, they didn't. Not to say that the Leafs were not present, but it's like they weren't. It's almost like you don't. If you're not going to try to attempt to score, you're not trying to do anything. What the heck? I get it. There were some calls or plays that weren't call hits. Exactly. I put it in the chat there. There was the hit there on Marner was not called. It's elbow. I get it. We're into the playoffs. Some things don't get looked at. Linesmen can't see everything. Also, they a lot of time they do see it and they're just waving it off because it's playoff hockey. It's a completely different than what it is in the season.
I honestly think that is also. Would you agree with me, Gene, that there might be a psychological thing to it because of the original 6 teams? I mean, the Canadians have a drought, but they're not that far. They're like in the 80s. So the Canadians have a drought from like the 70s or 80s, and that's still relatively close. The Leafs are the furthest away of all the original 6 teams. Every other team, aside from the Canadians, but they're still ahead of the Leafs, has broken their drought. And the Leafs can't seem to do it. The Rangers broke it after 52 years. The Red Wings, I think, after like 42 years it took them. It took the Blackhawks. I think it took the Blackhawks, like, I want to say something like another 50 years. Each broke a 50-year drought. And it's now like the Leafs are kind of like the NHL's version of the Cubs or the Red Sox, where something inspirational has to happen for them to push forward and bring the cup home.
I think right now too, if I'm looking over this game and this series, and you can pull anything from the prior series that just happened when you were taking on the Sens, you're down. It's now tied. The series is 2-2. You want a nail-biting series, but at the same time, you don't want the other team to actually think that they've got one up on you. And I think the Leafs, from time to time, have that problem with certain teams that they allow that team to get one up on them, thinking that they got the Leafs right in that right spot. And then sometimes they do it to themselves. They choke, or the Leafs try to make a comeback and they fumble at the last, 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, this is a team that in the 80s and 90s, they, for all intents and purposes, with the players they had come through that organization, Felix Potvin, Matt Sundin, Doug Gilmour, Ty Domi, enforcing the law, Wendell Clark. And I think for a minute they got Mike Gardner from the Rangers. They should have won a cup in that span of time, and it just didn't happen.
You had also to add there was Cujo that had been with them. Eddie.
That's right.
Eddie Belfour. They've had some of again. They've had a list of great people. I remember watching the game that everybody talks about that way back in the day when the Kings and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it came down to, it was the final time that we were ever going to get Montreal versus Toronto. And it was a game 7, and the stick that whacked freaking, I think it was Doug Gilmour, and they never called it. They never called it. We talked about it for years. Never called it. And here the Kings win. And again, a lot of it is sometimes, I want to say it's also politics. They're trying to push. The NHL has been trying to push for years in the different markets. At that time, it was LA, strong on LA. We want to push that LA market. Did we not just get, the LA Kings at that time? And then later on, not too long, would you get, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks? So
the Kings were the new 6.
Yep.
And they were only around since like the late 60s. And then they took the Ducks in to form a rivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, a lot of it has been, is it behind the scenes where it's like some politics where they're trying to push it into different avenues and make sure that all these markets are reachable. But you got to remember the original market on where the NHL has always made their backbone. For years, it was always a healthy market here in Canada. You knew, go through any team in the NHL is comprised of a good percentage of Canadians, and then the rest filters out to Europe and United States. So,
and I agree with you because I think that there should be a emphasis on going back to that because I agree with expanding the brand. You want to go to warm weather, it works in warm weather, you can do it. But there should be no reason for Quebec to not have a team.
Yep.
There should be no reason for a city like Hartford to not have a shot at getting a team back because they were successful in Hartford.
Yep.
So, I mean, they have to go back to where the people will actually watch hockey.
Hold on. That's the key, though, because with how much the NHL tried to force the Phoenix Coyotes to work, they're still trying to. They are never going to work. Even if they had in the 90s, when the Coyotes still played in the same arena that the Phoenix Suns are, and they decided to move to the West Valley instead of the East Valley. Even if they would have gone to the East Valley of Phoenix, where all the rich people are that wanted the hockey team in Arizona, they still would not have brought in enough to keep the team there. This was only a matter of time. And I hate to say it like that, but it's true.
And on the agenda, they have Atlanta and Phoenix, and both of those markets still have fresh wounds. They failed. Just give up.
They can't even get a new arena so that the team has good digs to play in, because I spent a lot of time in that arena that the Coyotes were in before. I can tell you that it was not made with the best things. It's already not in good shape.
It really doesn't matter because I don't think the Coyotes could sell out a figure skating arena.
Nope.
I don't think like.
There are markets that I've said this to other people. I believe that there should be by now more Canadian teams in the NHL.
Absolutely.
And you're more states that have, a winter, if you will, that do play.
A city that would actually be able to support an NHL team better than Phoenix could. Kansas City. Kansas City wants an NBA team, and Kansas City wants an NHL team, and Kansas City sports fans are rabid. So they would get plenty of business. That is a better. I know it's not a great market.
If they could negotiate with the Devils and bring back the Scouts logo, people would go nuts.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if they could negotiate and buy that Scouts jersey off of the Devils, because I think the Devils were the Scouts, then they were the Colorado Rockies, then they went to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if they can negotiate with the Devils to get the rights to that jersey, people like Kansas City fans would go nuts.
All right.
For sure.
Like I said again, there are markets that are untapped. There's potential in the NHL to go out, but like I said, at this point right now, with what's already there, I'm hoping to see. And again, I like to see the Final Four be on that side. I like to see Winnipeg, or on the West, Winnipeg and Edmonton. I'd like to see that battle happen. I think it does deserve to happen at this point. To go to the top. And then on the East, I'd like to see right now Toronto pick their socks up, finish off, maybe in a game. I want to say the Panthers game versus the Leafs is going to go to a game 7. I like to see the Leafs come out with that, because I think if the Leafs come out with that and they get momentum to going in against a Hurricanes team, it would give time the Hurricanes to rest, but that can also be a detriment in the NHL. You sit for too long, that momentum goes away. Yep. We've seen that what happened with the Leafs last year when they took on the Panthers. The Panthers just ran over because they had to wait. So, that's why they like to say in the NHL, we like to see the games go 7, because at least then everybody's staying hot and keep going. Again, I like to see the Stanley Cup come down to maybe Edmonton versus the Leafs, or Winnipeg versus the Leafs. And I want to see at least say that in my time that I can see the Leafs raise the Stanley Cup. It's about the time.
Either way,
Canadian team. Oh, sorry. Well, you go.
Either way, Canada wins.
Yeah.
If America's hat is going to win a Stanley Cup championship, I would like to see Winnipeg, because I think they were heartbroken in '95 when that team moved to Jersey. That fan base. Yep. They didn't deserve to have the team abandon them like that, and I would like to see that would be a full redemption arc for me.
Mm-hmm.
To see a Winnipeg team actually win a cup, because they stayed loyal from when that team was in the WHA. They filled that stadium. They went all the way to '95, and that team was making moves with Hobby Bulin. They had Kachuk, the real Kachuk. Timu Solani, I think. No, he was on the Flames. But I'd like to have seen the Jets stick it out instead of move to Phoenix. So I'd like to see a redemption arc with, if Canada is going to win. Yeah, I'd like to see a redemption arc and have the Jets take it home.
All right, you guys. Gene, thank you for that. I do appreciate that. Bringing some hockey to the show, bringing some high class hockey to the show. Oh, okay. Okay.
That's my favorite jersey.
All right.
Defensive playing style after him.
All right. Let's go ahead. We got a few things, a couple more things to cover. Then we're gonna head here for the night, guys. I got to do this. And I hate it. As you can see in our ticker, the Knicks defeat the Celtics 121-113.
What?
Damn.
Really?
Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson.
Yes. Is that a bad thing?
Yes. Jalen Brunson had 39 to lead the way for the New York Knicks. Mikal Bridges with 23. Karl-Anthony Towns with 23. For the Celtics, Jason Tatum did go out with an injury. Here's my thing, though. Jrue Holiday, where you at, fam? Where you at? Al Horford. And I said this morning, your ass should be retired. You shouldn't even be in the league the way you playing. Get out. You had 5 points. You had 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists in 38 minutes. Fam, get out the league. Just leave. Just leave.
And that's someone that the old Knicks would have signed. They sent him to Boston.
And then I go down and I look at Kristaps Porzingis. 24 minutes, 7 points, 4 rebounds, no assists. Bruh. Now you got Jason Tatum out with an apparent Achilles injury.
And he was dropping dimes tonight. I was watching the game with my son. He looked like Steph Curry beyond the 3 tonight. It was ridiculous.
Yep, he was playing well. He had 42 points. 42 points. But Al Horford, get out. Just leave. Just retire. It's time for you to retire, bro. You can't move laterally anymore. Like Hakeem Olajuwon used to say, he has no lateral movement. He ain't got no lateral movement. But yeah. Oh, real quick, Eric, I had a question, Gene.
Did anything happen to Bennett?
Yeah,
from that hit.
From my understanding, nothing was done. They tried to. The media wanted to get contact after the game, talk to Sam. For the press, he was not allowed to talk to the press after the game. He went straight to the locker room, showered, and basically nothing came of it.
Okay.
At all.
Okay. Right now, we do have a game going on in the first quarter. The Timberwolves over the Golden State Warriors, 14-12. And Mo brought it up earlier. If Anthony Edwards is a dog, they're gonna win tonight. If he's that dog, they're gonna win tonight.
They have to win this night. Win tonight to stay in the series. They don't have a choice.
Yeah,
the Timberwolves need to win this game. Put it 3-1. Put the screws to them. Go and do it.
But if Steph Curry gets hot,
he won't be back until until released. So that's why they have to win these games now, because without Steph Curry, this is how you get ahead, so that you get more pressure on Steph when he comes back. But we'll see what happens.
And we've seen 3-1 leads evaporate, but it's very rare that we do see that. The other thing that I need to talk about tonight was just pathetic. Rigged. As you can see, the title of the show, the NBA draft lottery is rigged. The team who won the draft lottery, the Dallas Mavericks. And we all know what the Dallas Mavericks did. They basically gave up Luka for Flag.
I just hope they don't do the Flag what they did to Luka.
Well, what happened was
you're assuming Flag is going, and we're assuming
that he needs someone to blame his losses on.
And we're assuming Flag's going to be good. That's the assumption, that Flag's going to be good. That's the assumption. But this whole thing, you can't tell me it's not rigged. You can't tell me that. And then on top of that, your WNBA team also got the number 1 pick. Come on now.
Will,
come on now.
Will, I gotta ask you, can you show a little empathy or compassion here? It's Dallas. Look at what Dallas has to root for, okay? The Cowboys, the Texas Rangers, the Mavericks, whatever the name of their WNBA team is, the Dallas Stars, who are probably going to blow it in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're like the worst, best sports city in America. They're like it's Dallas. Can we just throw the dog an invisible bone?
No, I can't. I can't. And the reason why I can't is because
Will can't come to the realization that everything's big and bright and the stars go bright in the state of Texas.
I mean, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that episode of The Simpsons where Lisa comes up with an idea, but they say Ralph Wiggum came up with it, and then it's like, let him have it, Lisa. It's Ralph. That's Dallas.
What I wanted to see tonight, and I don't know if you guys would agree with me. I wanted to see Flag. I wanted San Antonio get the number 1 pick, and Flag go to San Antonio. That's what I wanted to see with Wemby and the rest of the crew down there with the Spurs. That's the organization of basketball. Even though Pop has stepped down, you know they're gonna run that team right. It's gonna be coached. It's gonna be coached up. I wanted to see Flag go to San Antonio, and then to come out a little bit later, our Bulls lost the coin flip to get the number 1 pick, and it's like I'm saying, really, bro.
We went from 1 to 12 off of a coin flip.
Yep, 1 to 12 off a coin flip. Yep.
Well, they deserve that for helping the White Sox out with those atrocious jerseys.
No, what happened was we messed it up with that winning streak we had toward the end of the daggone season. Because you remember the half-court shot Josh Giddey hit to beat the Lakers? That was one of the games we went on a winning streak. And then we get to the play-in, lose in the play-in, lose the coin flip, and we right back in the same draft position as if we We're a playing team.
Yep.
I was just going to say to what John asked about if this curse of Spike Lee is broken. So, John, no. And it's because no matter what we do, Spike Lee looks like the aged version of that Cousin Skeeter doll from that TV show. Damn. And that's always going to be a curse on whoever he's cheering for.
Remember that time where he dressed it all purple and he looked like the bus driver from Harry Potter?
Dang. All right, so we just got asked this question. So Giannis' next team.
And
I thought Giannis was under contract.
Yeah, he's getting traded.
But if a team like Houston, a team like Chicago that have a bunch of young pieces that want to put a superstar on their team, it's not outside the realm of question.
Yeah.
Oklahoma. I don't. With as good as Oklahoma City's playing, I don't see Oklahoma pulling the trigger. Houston could. I like how Oklahoma City's made, where they don't have a bona fide. I mean, you could say SGA is the bona fide superstar of that team, but you don't have a number one, so the team plays as a number one. It's not like the Lakers where they have Luka and LeBron, so you got to feed them the basketball and you got to feed them their egos. You don't have that in Oklahoma City. I think if you put Giannis on there, you ruin the chemistry that those young teammates have together. Houston, I could see Houston pulling the trigger. Ownership there does like a superstar on their team. I could see Houston doing it. I think the right play is keep Giannis in Milwaukee for at least a year or wait until the trade deadline and see what teams have available. Because during the season, there are going to be players that want to make a move or players that want out of non-trade clauses. But I would say stay in Milwaukee unless the team with the right offer makes the move. I think it's either going to be Houston. I don't think OKC makes a play. Miami could make it too. The problem with Miami is besides Bam and maybe Tyler Hero, I don't think you have anybody else that you can move. And even if Pat Riley is on the way out, I don't see him jeopardizing Hero and or Bam Adebayo to get Giannis into Miami.
I can see one. I can see one, but
I could throw out there Toronto. Toronto's got money, always has, and always has a way of moving people and places. And to get him where he's a star, we've done it before. We had Tracy McGrady, we've had Vince Carter, we've had Rose, we've had guys come through there.
Kawhi Leonard.
That's right, Kawhi Leonard. So there's always money. There's always that availability in that aspect. It's do they want to come to the land of ice and snow for a while to play basketball?
What about because the Spurs with the second pick, because it looks like they're not going to get Cooper Flag.
Yeah,
the Spurs could put together a nice package, including that second pick for the Bucks that gives them the ability to, yes, they're losing Giannis, but you can turn around and pivot and reset and give yourself a young talent to start over with again.
What about this? There's a new trend out there called adult adoption. So what if LeBron disowns Bronny and adopts Giannis through adult adoption, and then he can finally achieve his dream of winning an NBA championship with his son?
Stop. John, stop, John.
Just stop
it, man. Ooh. Watch him go to the Clippers. I can see that now. Look at me. I'm gonna trade you Ben Simmons. And some draft picks. Let me stop, man. Let me stop. That's funny. But Eric says OKC don't need it.
No, and here's the thing. OKC, the reason that OKC is going to be talked about a lot about this until the decision is official with what's going to happen with Giannis. Because OKC is in the unique position where they have the capital to be able to make this move. And then you add in the fact that, yes, they've got a great young core right now. They need experience to get over that hump. And you can either, struggle for the next couple of years to get it and finally push through, or you can tip the scales because Giannis tips the scale for whatever team he's on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just that's I'm not saying that Oklahoma City is going to do it. I do think Houston's a better fit, but I think that we are going to see OKC talked about with this until it's done.
My kidding aside, if the Knicks fall short this year, do they make a play for them?
They don't have.
Do they have the capital?
No, they're not.
Besides
Brunson,
they probably have to give up more than they're willing to.
Yeah, Brunson and Towns would have to be one of the two pieces that you're doing, and that team ain't going to give one. New York is not going to give either one of those guys up.
Especially Brunson with the way he's playing right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
But let me ask you fellas about these other series that we got going on here. And another team right now that's playing under par. Cavs and Pacers. Cleveland is playing like straight garbage. Straight garbage. And the Pacers are really outpacing them in this series thus far. Those boys
all the pun intended.
Yeah, all pun intended. Yeah, puns intended. They like to run the football. They like to run that up and down that court. Bunch of young stallions out there. It looks like I may get my worst nightmare. Knicks, Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Not again.
Are we feeling this?
I don't. Pacers are finally gonna have people cheering for them and actually learning where they're located. So I think it would be great for the Pacers.
Yeah.
And
I think for the first game they need to re-sign Patrick Ewing and Reggie Miller.
I was going to say, for nostalgic purposes, I'm not against the Knicks Pacers Eastern Conference Final.
No.
I have warlike flashbacks of a Knicks Pacers.
You remember, Ambrose? You remember?
That's where the curse of Spike Lee started. Reggie Miller knew sign language.
Yep. You remember, sir.
I was going to say, I mean, it's against what I thought was going to happen in the Eastern Conference because I really thought it was going to be Cleveland and Boston. This injury today to Jason is really going to affect the rest of the outcome for Boston if Boston doesn't fold up and fold in for Game 5. But I'm really surprised with how Indiana is taking control of this series. I figured when it was 1-1 leaving Cleveland, I figured Cleveland had the bench and they had the team to at least take one of those two games in Indiana. And the fact that they got completely, for lack of better term, smacked in the second quarter or Game 4 to give up 42 points and only score 16 and watch the Pacers hit ridiculous 3 after ridiculous 3 after ridiculous 3. I think if Cleveland does not play a solid first half in Game 5, this series is over. Donovan is going to have to put up 40-plus points. Evan is going to have a double-double. Yep, and that's if he's healthy.
Sounds like the Cleveland Cavaliers have went and they've at this point turtled. They had their momentum, but then now they've pulled back. And when you're in that position of pullback and you're scared like that, it's really hard to really come back and pull the trigger. And I think that's why you're seeing the Pacers jump the way they are. They notice it and they just see it a fish on the hook ready for the kill. It's just let's just move on and destroy this and take on whomever is next.
Let's move on over.
Agree that this probably might be a morale problem. I mean, because I'm looking at it.
Dude, it absolutely is. Like Cleveland got punched in the mouth in the series in Indiana, and they have not recovered. This Game 5, how Cleveland comes out in Game 5 will tell you how Kenny Atkinson, the coach, is telling his team how to play. If Garland, if Mobley, if Strauss, if those guys want to take over the team with Mitchell not being there if he doesn't play, this tells you everything you need to know about Cleveland, right? But I'm going to say it like this. I thought this was the series that was going to go to 7. I didn't think OKC and Denver was going to go to 7. I didn't see Minnesota and Golden State going to 7. This was the series because I figured Indiana's speed with Cleveland's toughness and depth on the bench was going to make it an interesting 7-game series. Right now, Indiana has proved that speed and punching a team in the mouth disrupts everything you need in Cleveland. Cleveland has to come out, forget that game 3 and 4 even happened, and you have to play it one quarter at a time. We'll know by halftime if Cleveland's going to make it to a game 6.
I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility, but it's a tall order. It has happened before, but say Cleveland does dig deep, they can win this game 5. They're still down 3-2.
Yep.
Basketball is a tough physical sport. Do they have it in them to win another 2 games?
I'm gonna honestly say no. With the way that they have been beat in Indiana, that is a completely different monkey you have to get off your back.
Because I think they can win game 5. I agree with you with that. If they come out right, they can win game 5.
Yeah.
But can they get the collective spirit to close the series out?
I don't see Cleveland. I don't think the toughness is not there for Cleveland. I don't see this. I personally don't see it making it past game 5. If it goes past game 5, it will not go past game 6. And then if it does go by game 6,
because game 6 will be back. Game 6 will be back in Indiana.
Game 6 will be in Indiana. And if it does go to game 7, I was right, and that's the series that just went to 7 games. So noted on May 12th, 2025, Ando predicted that this will either end in 5, end in 6, or I get my original prediction and this ends in 7.
I'll send
your specificity there.
Yeah, I know the specificity of it. Look.
Now let me bring up the other series we got going on in the West. I had this at Pick'em. OKC Thunder, Denver Nuggets. I had this as a pick'em. I need Michael Porter Jr. to stop playing around, man. You've been trash. You've been straight trash this whole series. Straight trash, fam. Russell Westbrook. Terrible.
Whoa. Game 2, Russell Wilson would like to, or Russell Wilson. God damn it.
I know,
Fuck
right?
you, Will.
I know.
Russell Westbrook would like to have a conversation with you, sir. Or was it? No, it was game 1.
Look at last game, Russell Westbrook.
Game 1, Russell Westbrook.
Look at last game, Westbrook. Look at last game, Westbrook, though.
Yep. Dude, this
trash.
This is why I am against a superstar like Giannis coming to Oklahoma City, right? Young teams grow from series like these. You do not need to put a superstar on Oklahoma City for Oklahoma City to go ahead, Seven.
Well, no, and I get what you're saying. I'm not saying that Oklahoma City doesn't have the talent to handle this series and get through the West into the NBA Finals. What I'm saying is, think about the change in the road that the Thunder would be on right now if they had Giannis on that roster. That would include not having to worry so much about the battle with the Nuggets. You're not getting beat with Joker quite as much because you know you're putting Giannis on Joker, and they're just going to beat the shit out of each other for however many games. And taking Joker out of the game is huge because you're forcing 4 other guys on whoever's on the floor with Joker to actually perform, and you can't rely on those guys to perform. So it makes, that's what I said, tipping the scale. Is OKC going to get him? Probably not. But if they did, he tips the scale.
But I have to agree with Seven on that because how long has OKC been building for, Ando, and they still haven't bought a ship home?
So hold on. So
they
had really tough,
they
had a really tough series last year against the Luka-led Mavericks, right?
Yeah.
And that game,
what would have been the deciding factor there if they had a veteran?
So, hold on. So you can't. The argument that I'm going to make with that is, yes, while personnel, it was the same team, almost the same team last year as it was this year. They added Caruso. And they dropped Giddey.
That's so true.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But yeah, Harden, KD, and Harden, KD, and Westbrook, because Westbrook was the 3 that was there. And I was just going to get ready to make a point because I think the Thunder blew up their big 3. Technically, their big 4 because Serge Ibaka was on the team at the same time that KD, Westbrook, and Harden was on the team.
Yep.
They threw away Harden because they were scared about the luxury tax penalties that they were going to suffer in 2013 and 14, which, because of the new NBA bylaws that the CBA signed, it alleviated like the $15 million penalty that the team was going to have, it would have alleviated it to like $5 or $6 million. So it would have been a hell of a lot easier for the team had they kept him. And I think Oklahoma City will look at this with the same. We'll look at it with the same glasses that they should have looked at this with KD, Westbrook, and Harden. You don't want to blow up the chemistry that young team has, because this young team is going to get that experience. Yes, last year they got beat by a very tough Mavericks team, but if you put a veteran on that team, it changes the chemistry because you're built around that one superstar to get the ball. The Bulls with Pippen and Jordan were not the same as the Bulls with just Pippen on the team. And we saw that in the 94 playoffs against your Knicks.
Or for that matter, just Jordan on the team before they drafted Pippen.
Exactly. And Jordan did not make the team. He made the team better because, again, all you had were coke-filled players on the team that were doing drugs in the locker room, as reported by Jordan.
Don't you dare do Orlando. Don't you dare do it. Hold on. Don't you dare do Orlando Woolridge like that.
Look, maybe Orlando was the only one that wasn't doing coke, but everybody else was. But
that made them better.
My point is, the Oklahoma City. The point that I'm trying to make is if you would have had a superstar last year on that Oklahoma City Thunder, could you have beaten the Mavericks? Yes. But the dynamic and the chemistry of what you learned from the loss is going to be different, because now you don't have that superstar that's taking all the credit or all the blame. As a team, you're going to grow from that loss. And that's what Oklahoma did this year, based off of the record, based off of the first round sweep that they had of the Grizzlies. And this Denver team is punching them right in the mouth. They're not pulling what Cleveland's doing and cowering in the corner of the ring. Please don't hit me. It's so. No, Oklahoma City is saying, yo, we like this. Punch me in the mouth, because we're going to come back. We're going to swing haymakers in Oklahoma City. You better bring your best left and rights when we go back to Denver. I think Oklahoma City takes game 5, and I'm going to say Oklahoma takes game 6. I think Oklahoma gets the next 2.
See, I'll say what I said to Tony on the baseball show, podcast name deferred, Wednesday nights live at 10 p.m. Anyone watching? I don't 100% disagree with you. You're not 100% right, but you're not 100% wrong. I see your point of view kind of like sabermetrics. It's good enough to get you to the dance, but sometimes you need to do the old school thing to get you all the way.
I'm going to argue with one number.
If you combine the two, you can get a veteran. There's no shame in it. You can still keep that locker room together, but you get a veteran to come in and fortify that locker room while they're bonding.
I'm going to make an argument.
That makes a world of difference.
I'm going to make an argument. The 2004 Detroit Pistons won without a superstar. They won with team chemistry, solid defense, and every player on that team knew their role. This Oklahoma City Thunder team is just like that 04 Pistons team, except instead of defense, they're more offense.
I don't know, because the thing about it, SGA is better than anybody that was on that 2014.
That's true. But he is complemented by other players on the team. You can make an argument that Ben Wallace. Well, you can make dude. Who was the superstar on the Pistons when they won the 04 championship against the Lakers? There wasn't. You can make the argument that Chauncey
Ben
Billups
Wallace makes a strong case.
You can make the argument that Richard Hamilton was. But dude, you can make a case on any one of those starting 5. Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton, and Chauncey Billups.
They were all over TV, dude. Those guys were superstars.
But nobody was the superstar, right? You could have taken LeBron James and put him on that team where Tayshaun was, and that team would have been better, but you would have messed up the entire chemistry that Larry Brown had for that entire team.
They had Chauncey Billups.
It doesn't matter, because LeBron would have been the budding superstar. What I'm saying is this Oklahoma City Thunder team is playing just fine without that superstar on the team.
And Rasheed Wallace.
But you add somebody like a Giannis to that team, you change the entire chemistry of what Oklahoma City is.
I can back the argument of Ando here, just because
I see it too.
When you look at the team that won the trophy for Toronto, it was one key star player that was it. And then the next season, we give them away. And where were we at?
Joe Carter was awesome.
You know what I mean? So but they based it around getting one guy to get them over so that they could get the trophy. And as soon as they got it, and then they release him and he goes away, did we get back there? No, because there was no chemistry. That fucked the chemistry right up.
Right. Okay, but you won, right? So do you want to be right or do you want to win?
You
So you're
want
saying
to
Oklahoma
win.
City
I
should
get
go after Giannis.
at the end of the day, you want to win the trophy, but
Yeah.
you also want to build a franchise where you have a bunch of guys that, regardless of one person leaving, you can still get back to the dance again.
But they still won is the point.
Yep.
But
They did.
here they still won. But here's the question with Giannis. Putting Giannis on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, let's look at this for real.
Mhm.
You have two paths that you can go to. You bring in one guy, you bring in one superstar that's still under contract for 2 years, as it's been stated in the chat. Okay.
Mhm.
So with this team as it's currently constructed, you add Giannis on, take probably a couple of pieces and your second or your
It was
first
so
round
much more
pick.
fun back then.
And you send him Giannis, and then all of a sudden you have 2 years consecutively where you are going to be in the Western Conference Final at a minimum, if not in the NBA Finals. Or do you take missing the next 2 year in the hopes that you're going to be able to build that continuity after that? Because if you look at this team, if they can't get out of this series, and they're based on the trajectory that they've been going on, they'll be in the Western Conference Finals next year, and they'll finally make an NBA Finals the following season. So you're either looking at the possibility of competing for the Commissioner's Trophy twice,
Right,
in the next 2 years, or
Right.
maybe once, but you don't know if your team's going to be able to stick together beyond that to know if you're going to get any kind of continuity. But you know right now you can send some shit and have Giannis Antetokounmpo, however the fuck you say his name, in your locker room dominating the fucking paint.
I mean, and I don't want Ando to think I'm completely disagreeing with him, because you can go too far in the other direction. Look at the Knicks in the 90s.
Yes.
They signed Latrell
Absolutely.
Sprewell, Larry
Okay.
Johnson,
Whoa, hold on.
Michael Jordan's
Hold on.
fish
Hold on.
rags.
I'm
I
going
don't
to
know,
argue.
but, like-
I'm going to fight that argument, Ambrose, because that Knicks team that you're talking about with Latrell Sprewell, with Larry Johnson, and aging Patrick Ewing, Allen Houston, they made it to an NBA Finals.
Mhm.
Did they win?
Dude, you're not going to beat the Spurs. Nobody in the
No,
East is going to beat the Spurs.
Especially
Because
that
he didn't do the right
team.
thing.
That's first team, yeah.
That
Dude,
Spurs
that
team was
Spurs
awesome.
team, that
Yeah.
Spurs team was a great team. But
But
no,
the whole
my-
thing is, did they win?
no.
But it's
No.
better to make it to the it's better to make it to the dance than not go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that season, again, that was the 99 lockout shortened season. The Knicks were a game away from not
That
even
was a
making the
lockout
playoffs.
short season. I don't even count that, and I'm a Knicks fan.
Yeah. So my argument again is this: you don't mess around with the chemistry. And Seven, this is where I'm going to disagree with you. Look at the Los Angeles Clippers. They thought by adding Kawhi Leonard that they were finally going to get over the hump. Oh, we didn't get Kawhi Leonard. We didn't make it with Kawhi Leonard. Let's go ahead and get Paul George.
That's not fair. That's not fair, because if Kawhi Leonard was played more than 10 games a year, the
Okay.
Clippers would actually have a shot at the
Yeah,
final.
that's different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
that's-
Dude is
that
like
was-
the Anthony Rendon of the NBA.
Seven, I am sorry for hitting below the belt. I apologize.
That's like
But-
here's the thing. I'm not against being wrong, but let's
No,
use a
I just-
decent
you
analogy
don't-
just to
with as well my sports opinion, being a fan of basketball, the first thing you do not destroy is the chemistry of the team. Do not mess with the chemistry. And I think Oklahoma City, with the chemistry that they have, who do you give up? Like, okay, so let's
Yeah, you got to
let's
get
run
somebody
through-
up. This is true.
Let's run this through. You're not going to get rid of SGA. I don't think you get rid of Holmgren. You can't get
Nope.
rid of Holmgren.
you can't
So
get rid of
who does that leave?
J-Dubs?
Jalen Williams.
Jalen Williams?
Yep, Jalen Williams. That
Yeah.
leaves Isaiah Hartenstein, the backup center, and he plays really well when Chet's playing in the 4. When they switch off between the 4 and the 5, those two guys play well. So yes, you get rid of we'll say Hartenstein we'll say one, if not two of the Williams, because they got two different Williams on the team, Jalen and Jaden. So you get rid of those three guys, you give up a perimeter shooter, and you give up a first-round pick, maybe 2 first rounds for somebody of Giannis's caliber.
But here's the thing: how many picks? Don't the Thunder have?
The Thunder have picks
in each round. So I get what you're saying to a point. Like this is going to be a sacrifice.
Yeah,
but yes, you're going to send Hartenstein. You're going to send Hartenstein. You're going to send
one of the two Williams.
One of the two Williams. I would say probably. I would hold on. Where's there it is. Okay, I would almost say you send Jalen Williams, the forward, the one that usually starts. You send him because Jalen Williams, the ones that comes off the bench, is one of the best 6 men in basketball right now. You don't want to lose that off your bench. I would.
I don't think Memphis makes any sense, John. Orlando could be interesting.
Orlando could happen. They have the resources. Orlando has the resources.
I don't think you get rid of who is it? Pablo Banchero.
I'm not getting rid of him.
Don't get rid of him. He is locked on the team.
That's your franchise guy. You don't get rid of him.
Yep. You get rid of one of the Wagner brothers.
See, I don't like Memphis like that. No.
Yeah. See, I don't see Memphis doing. I mean, it'd be great for Giannis and Ja, because then you'd have a superstar to complement what Ja Morant does.
And Giannis is going to bring culture, which we've talked about. And the problem with Memphis's team is they don't have a culture. So if Memphis does make that play, that could be beneficial. But is Memphis's front office going to have their heads out of their asses long enough to actually make this trade the right way? Because you can't overpay. You can't overpay for Giannis, because otherwise you fuck up all the other development you have on that team. But there's no chemistry on that team to break up, like you've talked about. Yeah. So that is a beneficial spot for him.
I got to ask, are the Atlanta Hawks such an irrelevant team to the point where they never come up in any of these conversations?
Yes. The Hawks are like the Grizzlies of the East.
Yes.
So the Hawks and the Grizzlies.
They're like the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes.
No one cares about them.
They don't even care about their own superstar and Trae Young.
Nobody's thought about Atlanta in a long time. Like the Hawks are not even.
They ain't talked about Atlanta since that playoff run they made back in the day.
I don't know. I just the Bags have a Dominique Wilkins throwback jersey and a Spud Webb throwback jersey. And those were cool jerseys.
They are.
Until Trae Young actually makes an impact in the NBA, he will be known as Cynthia. Like Angelica's call from Rugrats. He has to earn his name back like Russell Wilson does.
You mean Sierra's husband, right?
Yeah, Sierra's
husband.
Mr. Sierra Wilson.
Yeah.
Mr. Sierra Wilson.
She doesn't have a last name, Ando. It's just Mr. Sierra.
This beat is spicy.
It's
Mister.
But no,
she's like
the argument,
Madonna or Jesus.
Yeah. To end the argument, if I'm the Thunder, even with the outcome of this series against Denver, I don't make a play. It is tempting, and I know you have the draft picks and the draft and the finance to do it, but
they've got 2 picks in the first round.
I can see it, right? I mean, if Oklahoma does it, I can understand it. If I'm the GM, I like the chemistry of our young players. Keep it together as long as possible.
So
and then you can hit me with that what if you don't win a championship.
I think
He will never win a World Series.
Ooh, Hornets trade Melo and another player, two draft picks. Oh man.
Wait,
I think it also comes down to as well coaching staff. If the coaches look at it and they go, "We need somebody, we want somebody," then that's where it's at the end of the day. We can sit here and talk about breaking up chemistry, but if the coach says, "Hey, I need somebody to fill in this position, and we can give away these guys and this," that's where it's going to go.
Go ahead, Seven.
The Charlotte Hornets are still a basketball team?
Yes, they're still a basketball team.
Yes, they are.
I think
they are.
What Gene is saying about the coaches is kind of correct, but I think the money involved and the money the players are making over the years and the authority the players have been granted over the years, I don't think the coach has that much pull depending on what organization you're in. I mean, I really don't. Look at like whatever team LeBron James ends up on. He dictates the personnel on that team.
It goes back to the same thing as like LeBron James or Michael Jordan's. They dictate a bit, but also at the same time, it also you have to believe in the coach. It comes from especially in basketball. It comes basically starts at the coach and then goes from there. It's almost the same thing in the NHL. It really you when you're developing your team, you go from net out, right?
Right.
So same.
So let me ask this because I really
same idea.
Basketball coaches. If Phil Jackson was the coach of the Knicks and Pat Riley was the coach of the Bulls, would Phil Jackson be in the Hall of Fame?
You mean Pat Riley being the head coach of the Knicks and the Heat with Phil Jackson being a head coach of the Bulls?
No. Flip them. If Phil Jackson, when they were in the 90s and Riley was on the Knicks and Jackson was on the Bulls, if they were on opposite teams, would Phil Jackson be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think with the personnel that you had on the Knicks, you do not run the triangle offense. And Phil Jackson was known for the triangle offense.
He won 10 championships, given 3 were as a player, with the best players in NBA history.
Yeah.
Being an NBA coach, I mean, if I was to coach one of the 4 major leagues, I'd pick NBA coach because that's the easiest job.
What does that mean? Pop did the same thing. You still don't disrespect Pop?
No.
You still disrespect Pop?
I don't know. I just think being a basketball coach is a lot easier than it is to be a coach in any of the other 4 sports.
I disagree with that.
It is hard in the NBA because you look at again Phil Jackson, Doc Rivers, all these guys that went from being a player to a coach. It is a bit of a more strenuous out of the other fields of sports. But I think it also comes down to is are you willing? Look at like a Phil Jackson or a Doc Rivers. They loved the game of basketball and they wanted to give as much back, so they are willing to put in the struggle.
Yep.
Again, we could say going back, if you flipped the coaches, I don't think Phil would get into the Hall of Fame. He probably would later on get into the Hall of Fame, but he wouldn't have had the right key elements to run a triangle off, his triangle the way he normally would. And it probably wouldn't have happened until later on if the Knicks had have been able to make the right trades.
All right, so hold on. I gotta
fly real quick as a basketball coach. So you have baseball managers run strategy, shifts, and otherwise. Football coaches run plays, and they have coordinators who do that as well. Hockey coaches run line changes and run strategy. When the game's on the fly, there ain't no line changes, and you only get 3 timeouts. What the hell does a basketball coach even do? Stand there in a suit and yell?
But it's harder because you have to truly be a leader of men. You still have to go down, run your half court sets. You have to know basketball, truly know basketball, and truly know your personnel on a different level than any other sport. I feel in basketball. Because again, you can look at football. You have measurables that you can sort of kind of look at and tell a guy. You can do the same in basketball to a certain extent, but you also can have a major way to change players in basketball. For example, Michael Jordan coming in the league, he didn't have a jumper. He had a jumper by the time he left the league. Yeah. So guys can change. You can make guys for the better in basketball. Coaching is important. Coaching is very important.
Or in the NBA, if you're, let's say, running a classic 1 center, 2 forward, 2 guard, and your center is completely killing somebody as a coach, substitute one of your guards for the bigger guy. Now you got 2 guys in the paint. You can't really do that with hockey because you can't really change the size of the defensive men, but you can change the size that you have on the basketball court, which changes the entire philosophy. Also, Gene, I do want to say to you, don't ever put Phil Jackson and Doc Rivers in the same sentence again. Do not ever put them in the same sentence.
Also, look at the fact of what Steve Kerr did. Steve Kerr did with the Warriors changed the game by going small ball. and utilizing the 3 to where it was. So coaching is important, very important.
But we can also yell at Steve Kerr for not playing Jason Tatum in the Olympics.
Hell yeah, we can. Yep. Hell yeah, we can. Yep. All right, you guys. I do want to go ahead. Knicks fans down bad. They mentioned Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson killed the team twice. Once as a coach for the Bulls, and once as an executive for the Knicks. They're just mad.
He won a championship with them.
All right, guys. What I do now, I do want to go ahead and take a break. And when we take a break, we'll give you a sneak peek into podcast named Deferred with some baseball action when we come back. So hang out with us here on the Sports Report on Water Wild Sports, and we'll be right back.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
All right, everybody. We are back. We are back once again here to go ahead and give you a sneak peek into podcast named Deferred. Going to get into some MLB action to finish up the show. 7, get us caught up.
Well, since we are now in the position we have our Canadian brother here, I wanted to get your input, Gene, to start us off here. The Blue Jays did not have a very good outlook at the start of the season. They are at 20-20, 4-game winning streak, and starting to move in the right direction. How's everything feeling?
4-game winning streak.
How's everything feel from the Canadian side of things? How's everybody feeling?
I think again, everybody's appreciating the Jays, but right now I think a lot more of the focus, and I hate to say it, especially at this time, everybody's focusing their eyes on the cup, on the Stanley Cup. So the Jays, and it's like this with also with basketball. It's like if the Leafs are still in the Stanley Cup playoffs, everybody's focused on that, and until that is done, everything else doesn't really matter. It's like, oh, the Jays are actually up winning. Oh, good, awesome, good for them. We'll get to that when this is all over. That's usually how it works.
They're holding the line right now in 2020.
Yeah, that's reminiscent of what Andre Dawson said when he went in the Hall of Fame as an expo. He said, I know the city loved me, but half the time they were showing up to Olympic Stadium with hockey sticks. So I mean, it is true. I guess, like, is Canada like Texas, where it's like Texas loves football, and it's kind of like, all right, football's over, we can watch baseball, but for now it's football.
Yeah.
Hockey is a religion in Canada. It just, there's no question about it. Like, if you ever watch the show Shoresy or Letterkenny,
I've watched Letterkenny, and I played hockey. I love the locker room talk.
That again, I mean, Gene can confirm that show is far more accurate than it gets credit for.
Yeah,
I told my wife. I said they actually cleaned it up, and my wife said, "That's filthy. They cleaned that up." I said,
yeah.
Oh yeah,
it gets worse.
It's bad.
Yeah,
you're in that locker room, it gets bad.
I so badly want to make a Shorzy joke to Gene with him being on the show and see how he responds, but I don't know if I. Well, you know what? The parental advisory is on. Screw it. Screw you, Shorzy. Your mom came over here and used maple syrup to lube my wiener yesterday when she came over to the house.
Yeah. If you keep on saying those things, we'll get you 2 in the box.
Yeah, screw you. Your mom joined in. She gave me the marshmallows for the s'more on my wiener.
So,
love the hockey room talk, by the way. Love it.
Question about the Blue Jays, Gene. If the Expos do make a return, would you like them to be in the AL East so you have like a lucrative, big Canadian team rivalry?
Yes, I think that's
Jays to move to Montreal so you could have 36 games of Canadian baseball.
Yeah. I think like right now where the Jays are sitting alone in the Canadian Baseball League, just basically all alone themselves, and they play a lot of the American teams. They have a great rivalry with the Yankees going back and forth, but the Jays back in the day, they had that rivalry with, the Expos, and I think that's missed. Again, Montreal just didn't have the finances in order to keep, up on the upkeep of the stadium. The stadium was fairly old. Yeah,
there were a lot of factors. Yeah, finances. Yeah, there were definitely a lot of factors.
I still think if that 95 strike doesn't happen, Montreal wins the World Series, and I don't think the Expos leaves. I don't think the Expos leave Montreal at that point. Because that money would have been ridiculous.
I think the owner. I don't think the owner was necessarily a bad owner. I think the decision to making their broadcast francophone only for a period of time really turned a lot of people off because
again, to that one, that's only due to the fact that you look at the Montreal Canadiens, and that's what they do. All their stuff is completely 100% all French, all francophone. And when you're watching the games of Montreal Canadiens, if it's not co-televised on CBC, and you're catching it like midway through, if you want to watch it like the way it's supposed to, you would go to RDS. That's the French version of TSN, and that's where you would watch Montreal Canadiens 100%, and it's all in French, all francophone.
Yeah.
So that was their pull there, but that was, I think, a wrong move.
Is that kind of like when the dude from Trailer Park Boys and the dude from Letterkenny are announcing the game on Shorzy, where you just get like a trailing English word every like 4 or 5 sentences, but it's just a bunch of fast French that doesn't actually make any sense even to people that speak it? Is that accurate? Okay. All right. Just making sure.
Yeah. So I got a question for you guys' response. Let's say Chicago does move the White Sox to Montreal and they become the Expos. You move the Expos to the AL East. Who do you move out of the AL East to move into that central spot?
Rays.
What do you mean? There are no Expos.
No, okay. But hypothetically, let's say Chicago moves to Montreal and becomes the Expos.
Okay, I'll play along. I don't think that would happen, but I'll play along. Who would I move? Who would I move? I'd move Baltimore. I'd move Baltimore down.
Okay.
That would be the furthest team away.
You're saying keep the White Sox and just add an expansion Expos team, right?
No,
I'm saying the White Sox team name. I don't think they'd move to a city where they change the name from White Sox.
You think it'd be the Montreal White Sox? I don't think you go back. I don't think you go to Montreal and not go. That'd be like moving a basketball team to Seattle and not just changing them to the Sonics.
Right.
If you move,
but it's also you're talking about a chartered team that's existed since 1880.
Okay, so
and they have a history, and I don't think they've changed that name.
Okay, so if MLB moves baseball back to Montreal, it is going to be a brand new team. Keep the history from when the Expos began to 2000, 2005 when the Nationals came in, right?
You'd have to buy the history from the Nationals, and I think the Nationals are very open.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing that they would. I'm not disagreeing.
No. I'm just saying for context. Because the Nationals honor the franchise, but I think they'd be willing if a team moved back.
I think it'd be like if the Sonics came back, the Thunder would give the history of the Sonics back to Seattle.
Same exact thing.
So in a situation like that, now essentially you have 31 teams in Major League Baseball. How do you?
Well, I mean, there's other teams aside from the White Sox up for relocation. So, I mean, I don't think it's necessary. MLB is going to expand. They're going to have to expand.
I'm not saying that, but do you? Because I can't see when the NFL had 31 teams, when Cleveland reestablished their franchise in 1999, the NFL had a hell of a time trying to create a schedule that was easy to make, not give headaches to fans, and then it was easy enough to understand, which is why I think when the NFL expanded and brought the Texans back in, it really established kind of that, okay, now we have a formula that we're going to use.
Are you talking about the era where like the AFC Central had like 90 teams?
Yeah, they had 6 teams. Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Yeah. I don't see how baseball, especially with it being 182 games, to have a 31 team league just makes it sound absolutely. I mean, it would be
one. They always have to have an even number of teams because it's a mandate in the league that everyone plays on the weekend.
To add a second team,
so you have to have an even number of teams.
Where would you put the second team?
Vegas.
You think Vegas?
Nashville.
But if Vegas is
no, Nashville. That's right, Nashville.
Or Philly.
Or where?
Philly. I
know this is going to shock you.
I'd make Philly a 2-team city again.
No, you don't want to do that. You don't do that. There's too many other markets that you can go into that are going to give you more of a return. Because you could get a small market money out of a second Philly team, but if you put them in Nashville, Salt Lake, or a couple of other cities, you're getting closer to.
Let me amend Philly. Sorry, I would eventually put a team in Philly. I'd actually move. I'd actually put a team in Indianapolis because baseball dates back to Indianapolis to like the start of the country.
What about Oklahoma City?
Who? Where?
Oklahoma City. It's
now because you need Oklahoma City supports a basketball team. They could probably support a football team, but you need infrastructure. It's the same thing with Charlotte. They don't have the infrastructure to support 81 games, 81 home games.
I think Oklahoma City having a AAA team is their best bet. That's why I say I wouldn't
be like Omaha.
Exactly. That was exactly what I was going to say. Okay. You're not putting a major league team in Omaha, but
I would absolutely support an Omaha team. Living in Sioux City, Iowa, I would totally support an Omaha team.
Because
Nashville, Orlando, Montreal, Salt Lake. Those are going to be markets that there aren't teams in currently that the MLB is going to find a way to get into.
If I was going to expand, I think the Rays, and we discussed this again, podcast name deferred, Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Orlando Dreamers, that's where the Rays are going to end up. If they expand, I'd go Montreal, Indianapolis, or Nashville.
Okay. I can go with those. And then would you restructure the divisions to be in 4x4 like the NFL, or how would you do
that? Ain't never made sense. How is Dallas in the NFC East and Baltimore's in the NFC North? It doesn't matter. They all play
actually, your NFC North teams are Chicago, Detroit, Minnesota, and Green Bay. Arizona's in the West where they belong.
You would set up in a 4 quadrant.
Honestly, at that point, I would go back to East and West and just have the top 4 teams in each division go to the playoffs.
I mean, you could make. I mean, yeah, that would. I don't know. I think the. Yeah.
I mean, it was so perfect. It was so perfect before they did all this. East, West. You'd have at this point. You'd have 16 teams in each division.
16 by 16
in each league. Or you'd have 17 teams in each league with the interleague play. It works out because it's an even number of teams in the leagues.
Yeah. I think what you would do in a situation like that is you run kind of the same format that they got now. Your top 2 division winners by record would get buys. Your 3 and your 4 would be division leader 1, division leader 3, division leader 4. And then your top 2 teams outside of divisions would be your wild card.
I mean, I've always thought with baseball, like complicated things, go on merit, East, West, top 4, playoff system, you're good.
It's there. I would say we will get a 4 divisions in each league. We will not get the NBA style where it's just the top ranked in each East and West. That are going to get those slots. Baseball will not accept that. Just like it won't work in the NFL. That works. I think that's something that's unique to the NBA.
Well, we're getting the NFL.
I like it. Right. but we'll get the 4 divisions in each league, but I don't think we get the. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the East-West argument was soured because there were a lot of teams when the American League and the National League were separate entities. Like the White Sox were put in the West, and that hurt them financially.
Yeah.
And the Cubs gained a lot of ground by being in the East, and they conquered Chicago because everyone could see them on TV, and most of the White Sox games were on at 10 p.m. So,
all right, and then we did see it was announced today Evan Longoria is retiring. He's signing a 1-day contract with the Rays to retire. Mike Moustakas is actually doing his absolutely. Mike Moustakas is doing a 1-day sign and retire with the Royals. I believe that one's actually at the end of May. And then
why are these guys retiring in the middle of the season?
They didn't get signed. They just didn't get signed. That's the end of their career. So they're just doing
Longoria is pushing 38 or 39 right now, so it's about time for him to retire.
Yeah.
He was a part of that.
So old.
He was a part of that race team that went to the World Series.
Yep.
Both race teams that went to the World Series, right?
Yeah. I just must be guys retire at 38.
But no,
I wish I could retire at 38.
You ain't lying.
For real.
What would be deep in retirement?
I'll be deep
At the
in
DoorDash
retirement.
after, by the way, Evan Longoria, if you want to write me a check.
And then we did also see the two of the worst teams in Major League Baseball fired their coaches over the last week. The Pirates and the Rockies both fired their coaches. With the Rockies, actually, the Pirates, their bench coach took over as interim GM through the end of the season. The Rockies actually fired their head coach and their bench coach.
Damn.
And because this was after a 7-33 start for the Rockies, one of the worst starts in baseball history. They're on pace to lose well over 100 games and have the worst season in history, by a large margin.
Right.
Would you guys agree though that the Rockies doesn't hurt as much as the Pirates and White Sox? Because
the Pirates the Pirates one hurts the most because you've got Paul Skeens. There's actually, if you look at that Pirates roster, there is a lot of talent on that roster. There is legitimate talent on that Pirates roster, and they are absolutely not delivering to what they should. So that one, the coach firing absolutely made sense. And I get with the Rockies, it makes sense too. But you've got. Their pitching staff is definitely not the best, but they do still have Paul Skeens, which when you've got Paul Skeens as one of your pitchers, that's already putting you in the right direction. But Joey Bart's their starting catcher. They've got Adam Frazier, Key Brian Hayes, IKF, and Jared Triolo in their infield. Plus, they're also using, I can't remember who it is that's playing first for them right now. But they've got O'Neal Cruz in the outfield, Andrew McCutcheon in the outfield, and Tommy Pham along with Brian Reynolds. There is a lot of talent on that roster. Pittsburgh should be at least in throwing distance of their division. And the closest thing you're in throwing distance to is a lawsuit from the guy that fell off of the balcony.
I agree. I also think though, with the Rockies, when you read about them, it's like, all right, they're in turmoil, but who is their best player? Larry Walker. You look at the Pirates, and it's like, this is a team, as an amateur baseball historian, that is ingrained in my mind. You have Honus Wagner, Roberto Clemente, Bill Mazeroski. You have all of these great teams. The We Are Family team that won the World Series in the 70s. Andy Van Slyke in the 90s, just missing, losing it out to the Braves. And it's so rich with history. And I'm not discounting the Rockies. I am, but I'm not. It's just, it hurts more to see the older son suffer like this when the other team can still have room to grow and build their history.
Absolutely. And Andrew, what do you think, buddy?
My Mariners got swept by the Blue Jays. I think that sucks. They're getting beat by the Yankees. I think that sucks. And this is why, as a Mariners fan, it hurts me to be a baseball fan this time of year because I get so excited, and then good teams beat the crap out of us. We're currently down to the Yankees 8-2.
Well,
I think it's 8-2. Is it 8-2?
I think it's last one.
Well, as long as your Xbox is working, you can still win the World Series.
I don't play Major League Baseball the show because I'm horrible at baseball. I will bring the Sonics back in basketball before I play baseball. But no, losing sucks. I think losing takes a horrible toll on franchises, and for the Rockies to have a worse record than the White Sox, I think says a lot about the organization. The fact that fans are still going, and
they're very supportive fan base.
The fact that they're not getting dumped on as bad as the White Sox are getting dumped on, and I think that says something about the culture that they have. Yes, we know we're a struggling team. Ambrose said it best. I think their best player is Paul Walker. When you know that you don't have a roster, but your fan base is, look at who we're playing against. We have the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Padres. We'll gladly take our last place finish. Thanks for the participation trophy. We'll take our lickings, and let's see what happens in a couple years. But, yeah.
All right, so have you got anything else
Mariners, get your shit together.
Yeah, Mariners, get your shit together. And no, I think that's it. Check out Podcast Name Deferred Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. If you're seeing this now, you can see Podcast Name Deferred on Wednesday. And highlights, discussion, Ambrose with possibly combed hair, all the fun features.
Maybe the Mariners.
No, just wear a hat.
All right, gang. Real quick before we get out of here, as you see on our ticker, the Warriors are leaving the Timberwolves at half, 60-58 at halftime. We'll see how that turns out. I believe the game is on ESPN. So definitely go check it out. And I just want to say thank you to everybody out there in TV land for being here with us. We do appreciate you guys. From myself, Seven, Ando, Gene, and Ambrose, I want to say thank you guys for being here. We do appreciate you. You guys have a great rest of your night. And I'll see you guys tomorrow right here on Wire to Wire Sports for Coffee and Sports in the Morning. Take care, everyone.